Hey there, podcast fam. Welcome to the Genesis Business Podcast, where we talk about the bold beginnings of the entrepreneurial journey. We are all about the real stories of overcoming the struggles of being an entrepreneur. We're here to inspire you to turn your visions and dreams into reality. But most importantly, we're here to remind you that God can work all things for His good for those who love Him according to His purpose. My name is Michelle Smith, and I am thrilled to be your host. Today, we're in for a real treat, literally. Our special guest today is George Joseph. He is a social entrepreneur who is currently the CEO of Positive Recovery Centers. He is also partner and CEO of Common Bond Bakery and Bistro, and he is also a founder of the Lightning Step Technologies. All right. Well, George, thank you so much for being here today. It is an honor. It's a personal honor. I know that the audience is going to be excited to hear your story, but me on a personal note, so you don't know this, but all my friends do. I am obsessed with iced coffee. So I'm actually a personal fan of Common Bond. I actually go there often. So when I was offered the opportunity to sit with you actually one-on-one, it's more than a blessing than I can explain to you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and so I have a couple personal goals. Personally, I want to inspire, but also I want to leave you encouraged.
Yes.
And so I hope that this conversation also blesses you, not just our viewers. So I think we're just going to jump right in. So, I'm super curious. I know you own a few businesses, but my favorite, I want to start from the top. We'll work into your favorite. It's Common Bond. I think most people know of it. It's actually very popular in Houston. So maybe you can speak to a little bit about kind of who you are, what you do there.
Yes. Okay, great. So Common Bond's a story since 2015. Almost 10 years that I've been involved in it. And basically it was a dream of a guy named Roy Schwartzefeld. And Roy was a U of H basketball player.
Okay, go Cougs.
Jewish guy. And he fell in love with the kitchen working as a waiter at Carrabba's.
Oh, wow.
And then he went to culinary school in New York and trained in New York. And his podcast that I listened to not too long ago was so interesting because he had such a passion to learn about baking.
Wow.
And would be the type of guy that would name drop one chef to another chef and go different places, including Europe, where he'd go and say, I know so-and-so, and the chef would like, who are you, guy? And in one of his experiences, he actually, the chef said, all right, come in, you can help for 2 weeks. You can sleep on my couch. And he would do that. And so he had this vision.
So cool.
Had this vision to come back to Houston and create Common Bond.
Wow.
The first 10 people told him no for money. And then the 11th folks was a lady in her 70s and her son. And so they went for years and traveled Europe and all over and got the best of everything and created Common Bond. And it was amazing acclaim and for all that parts. And then the way I got involved, I introduced as a guy who knew Roy and knew me, said, hey, Roy needs a mentor. He's having trouble with his financial partners. And so Roy and I started meeting, and I met his wife at the time, and they were like, we got to move online. We got to do all these things. I need a commissary. My kitchen's too small, but the investors don't want to put up any more money. And long story short, Roy got frustrated and actually left and went back to New York. But by that time, I met the partners, and next thing you know, I'm buying the business with Johnny Carrabba.
Wow.
At the end of they opened in May of 2014. We bought it at December of 2015.
Wow.
And so I was a silent partner, and Johnny's team was running it, and we were starting to grow it because we knew we had a strong concept, but they had problems. Their kitchen was too small, and we were only doing bakery items. So when we took it over, it was 80% bakery items and sales and 20% savory.
Oh, wow.
And so we created a commissary, and now it's basically 50-50 bakery and savory. The food is off the chart, and most people don't know it. They think of us as croissants and other things, but the shrimp po' boy, which I helped introduce from Louisiana. I'm from Louisiana.
Okay.
And the beet salad and the banh mi salad. I mean, it's just some great entree, steak frites. And so we basically went on an effort to start to grow, and then Johnny came to me at the end of 2017 and said, I want to simplify my life. Why don't you buy me out? And so I did. So now it's 100% mine. End of 2017, I'm running the business. I realized that with a commissary, you have to have multiple locations. So I went on this binge of growing the locations, and unfortunately, COVID hit right in the middle of that, and I had the biggest pain point was been downtown because I signed this lease before COVID. We opened during COVID. We waited. We thought downtown would come back, and never came back. Our lunches were great, but dinners and breakfasts were slow. So we had to close that location, and it was really a painful financial problem on that particular location. And so we kept growing, and then I got into COVID did help is I created the first drive-through.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
yeah. So that was my creation, and it was at the Heights on 6th Avenue. It used to be called Lee's Chicken and Donuts.
Oh, wow, that's fun.
And they were closing, and so it became Sam's Chicken and Donuts, and so we made a deal with Michael Sambrooks and took over their lease, and it's been a really successful location. And we created a new mini menu because it's only 1,300 square feet. We added a patio, and it's been hugely successful. So we started creating these drive-throughs, and I remember in COVID we had like gloves on. I had gloves on, my safety to go there with the mask and trying to figure.
Surreal time.
Yeah, it was very surreal, wasn't it? Yeah. And so, but it was a great location, and then we opened a few more of those, and then where I kind of got off track, and maybe I'm going too far into the story, but
we'll
the
touch
history.
bases. This is great.
Yeah, the history. So then I got too kind of off track, and I opened small locations in like the Ion. I don't know if you know the Ion, which was an amazing building, the old Sears building that Rice University created.
Oh, wow.
And an apartment building in Midtown, and a few other little places without the drive-through. And really, for a small menu, I need a drive-through or I need a full restaurant.
Yeah.
And so we ended up closing some of the smaller locations. And then our newest location is not far from here on Tanglewood, which probably is where you bought these products or got these products this morning.
You have a little to-go one on the Bunker Hill side. Behind Ciro's.
Behind Ciro's, yeah. That one is, we're trying to get out of it, actually, because it's...
Well, don't worry, I brought business today.
Okay,
That's where I went.
Thank you. Yes, it's small without a drive-through, so it's not our niche.
Yeah, you could tell it's great for coffee. Quick, and it's in a office space, hotel.
Yeah,
it's a good little...
It's beautiful, yeah. We have another year and a half
concept.
or so, yeah. It's just... We rather have a full restaurant in that area.
It sounds like that's more of your mission, more of your goal. So I have a couple of questions, but the one that comes to mind the most is with the to-goes, because obviously COVID. I was thinking at the time anything that is open right now is probably booming because a lot of places had to shut down. So it sounds like that kind of with the to-go concept, you guys got to take advantage of kind of that opportunity.
Yes, yeah.
Because there's always opportunities, but there's always difficulties too. But since COVID has passed and everything else reopened, have you seen a shift, or are people still enjoying the to-go?
I think it's funny. We feel like the to-go has grown. It's actually increased past COVID, and partly because some people are anti-corporate establishments, the Starbucks.
We can talk about that too.
Yeah, and so
I'm one.
so we have a lot of anti-Starbucks fans because the Starbucks stuff's not the same quality, obviously. But they have the card and the program, and so a lot of people were hooked on that.
They have a good system.
A good system.
That's all.
Yes, exactly. So we now have a rewards card and things like that to try to compete with them, but. We're locally, we feel good about our product. So our drive-thrus have really progressed, and we hope to open more drive-thrus.
Okay, well, since you brought it up, so I used to only drink Starbucks, and I've actually recently quit for spiritual reasons. So I don't drink them anymore, spiritual and moral reasons, I guess you could say. So, and that's shocking to people, I think, because they see them as like probably a righteous company. But to your point, so one of my main questions for you today, and I'm an advocate for kind of like they're a monopoly. And so I would love to see more companies like yours, like just locally owned, good quality. You have a good mission, right? To come together, to bring people together, regardless of where we're from. And so, I mean, you could speak to that. So you see them as a competitor, right? So kind of how, I'm even like, how did you were you brave enough to, because I feel like the market is just tough. So tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at the time, I saw the drive-through as an opportunity, and I knew that people love our product, and obviously the first location was Montrose, heavy Montrose, and people would drive in. I mean, I would meet people, and they were like, "Oh, we're from the Woodlands, or we're from Chicago, or we're from Europe, and we've heard about you." And so I knew that we had to kind of expand the brand and move it on. And then when COVID came, we wanted to obviously give the convenience and the safety to our customers. And so how do we do that? Because we have production. We have a production facility, so it's everyday deliveries, so it's fresh.
Nice.
And
So
and we feel like that's our advantage to a Starbucks. And obviously Starbucks has billions of dollars in marketing and things like that. And there's sugary drinks and things, but we use Cat's Coffee, and we feel good about local products and our delivery system and keep making an efficiency. The other thing I want to say is that in end of 2022, I sold a big interest to Joel Garza.
Okay.
And Joel is an amazing story. He would be a great person to have here. He started out working at a Sonic and then became a manager and then asked for a bonus basically, and they wouldn't give it to him. So he ended up getting his own franchise, and now he had like 40 Sonics, and then he had El Bulio. I can't. I always struggle with that bakeries, and then he became my partner, and basically is now managing it.
Wow.
And with his family and his team, and they've done an outstanding job. The quality and the efficiency, and because they had the Sonics, they actually have improved the drive-through speed and efficiency.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's got that experience.
So it's getting the customers through the line, making it proper, making sure everything's correct and orders are right and those kind of things. So he's been a wonderful partner, and I spend now more of my time with Positive Recovery, which we can talk about.
Yeah, that's coming up next on my mind.
Yeah. But Common Bond's such a love, and I just feel so good about it, and the work that we do on social media and just the people. And I don't know if you knew this, but the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, came to and picked us specifically because of our mission statement of bringing people together, because he loves food, and he said that wherever he travels the world, it's united by food and drinks, and it creates peace. And so
I love that. I'm tithinking like break bread. We break bread together, no matter where we're from. We share a meal. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So he was there, I think about a year or so ago. He came to visit us.
Wow, that is so sweet.
Yeah.
So you mentioned him, but I also did see you were acknowledged as, I think, one of the favorite CEOs. And would you speak to that too?
Sure.
We just want to talk about those accomplishments because
thank you.
I mean, it's such a beautiful thing to see. And success is defined differently by everyone. It's not just on the outside, but the success that a small local company can do this, and that's part of what I want to inspire people. Like, there is hope, and when you have a good purposed mission, and you're coming from a good place, right? I think. I just say God will bless it.
Yes, yeah. So it was a few years ago. It was Houston Business Journal Most Admired CEOs.
There it is.
Yeah, and I was nominated by Julie Denofa, and Julie is the president of Positive Recovery.
Okay.
And she's worked with me for almost 18 years, and so she made the application, and then obviously I was selected, and so it was really a nice tribute. And it was right in the peak of COVID, so there was a lot going on between running Common Bond, running Positive Recovery, dealing with COVID, and getting the award. So it was kind of like God saying, "All right, you're working hard. Let me give you a little love here.
Let me give you some little motivation."
A little support.
It's good to feel that. Okay, it's working. The fruits from my labor.
Yeah. I was like stressed out because we had between the two businesses, we had 400 plus employees, and I was stressed completely because you got payroll coming up, and you not know what's going on, and the percentages of operation of how many people you can have in the restaurants, and making sure the patients were not having COVID, and dealing with outpatient during Zoom, and a lot of fun stuff. But that award was really a good touch.
Oh, like icing on the cake. It made it worth it.
Yes, it was beautiful.
That's sweet.
It was beautiful.
That is beautiful. And so, I mean, you're also bringing up kind of your other companies, and so it sounds like you had all of them going at once.
Yes.
So a couple questions. We can segue into the Positive Recovery if you want to do backstory, but I will ask how you managed to stay sane running 3 companies and probably have a personal life and all those things.
Yeah, so with family and friends and stuff like that.
Life.
So I think, my spiritual life, like you were talking about, it was so critical because when you have fear, the only thing that can overcome it is faith. And so the faith came in, and I'm involved in recovery myself, personal recovery. And so my meetings and my support group were so critical to me through that period because, I needed an hour every once in a while, a break to just center myself. And obviously start the day with a meditation. But I don't know if you know much about the Insight Timer, the app.
Yeah, I'm in recovery too.
Yeah, so it's I use the app every night, every morning.
Yeah.
The app's on, and
Convenient.
yeah, it helps center me. And so it was a lot going on, but slow but sure. And the quality of the people you surround yourself with, and I have some amazing employees, and they just really stepped up, and everybody works hard, and we made it through it, thankfully, and growing, because I'm a kind of person that, in Louisiana where I'm from, there's a word called lagniappe. Lagniappe means something extra, like if you give a dozen donuts, you get one free, so it's a lagniappe, that's the lagniappe donut. But I never thought I'd live past 21, and so now that I'm almost 60, I'm 62, it's amazing, 62 years old, I feel like all these years have been lagniappe, which makes me very grateful.
That's so sweet.
To have those years, and so that helps the sanity and dealing with the kids and the family and all those things.
That's a beautiful perspective.
Yeah,
it's just like this is additional. Like I'm very blessed to be here, right?
Yeah. My favorite movie, obviously, is It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh,
the guy's named George, so it brings it home, and I tear up most every time just because it's such a good touch.
Classic.
Yeah, classic. What a classic movie.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So I don't know if you want to speak to maybe your personal story that led into your second business.
Okay, perfect.
Maybe
sure.
that'd be the way.
Sure. So
this is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. I was born obviously in South Louisiana, Cajun, and you drink. You're just born drinking. It seems like.
Yeah. It's the culture.
It's the culture. Yeah. So the culture was strong, and my grandfather had a bar called the Inferno Room until it burned down.
Oh, how ironic.
Ironic, yes.
Aww.
Yeah. So it was a big day when I could go with him and drink, and 12, 13, 14 years old, and ride home with them, and I just got into my own addiction, but I did have an entrepreneurial spirit, and my family had an entrepreneurial spirit. We had clothing stores on my dad's side, and my mom's side had the bars and trawling boats and things like that. And so my father passed away when I was 12.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
I had a lot of grief and didn't know how to deal with it, and sooner or later got introduced to more alcohol and drugs and really took off on it. And thankfully, God intervened, and I was selling cocaine, and I sold to the wrong guy, or I was introduced to the wrong guy who was a federal narcotic agent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was a blessing. I was 18 years old, about to turn 19, and my lawyer, thankfully, this was another God thing. When he was in law school, his wife worked at a rehab center.
Okay.
And so he said, hey, look, they got you. You're going to do some time probably unless you go try to get help. And I was like, sure, give me about a week.
Yeah.
And
It's okay.
Give me a week and I'll go. And what I didn't realize during that week, I was so afraid that I was almost suicidal because I just got wasted, drove crazy, did this crazy things because I was so afraid at 18 years old, facing, big charges on distribution of cocaine.
Serious.
Very serious charges. And so thankfully I checked into rehab on October 12th, 1981.
Wow.
And been sober ever since, and did 6 weeks inpatient, 6 months at a sober living, and then I had to do a little bit of jail time, and it was kind of like a Mayberry RFD jail. It was 2 cells, and the cell doors were open, with it was like 12 guys in there, and several of the guys were arrested when I was arrested, and they were like, we getting out soon, and you went to this rehab and all this stuff, and I was like, no, that's just I'm happy what happened.
Yeah.
And I was able to. They got me out. The sheriff basically said, I didn't have to do my whole sentence.
Wow.
So I got out early. I was supposed to stay a year and 6 months good time, and I got out, I think, in like a month or 2 months, and it was work release, so it wasn't bad. But again, it ensured that gratitude, because when you're locked up, even if it's just a small Mayberry RFD prison like it was still the understanding that you don't have the freedom to do what you want to do.
Yeah, big wake-up call.
Yeah, and so when I got out, I had two choices. One is to go back to my old friends, go to Bourbon Street, blow it out.
Yeah.
I had probably 9 months, 10 months sober by then, or go back to the sober living. And I happened to go back to the sober living, and they were going to speak to some college students that night. So I went to speak about recovery that night. Yeah, my story. And so every time you tell your story, it ensures your sobriety, because I don't want to be a lack integrity where I'm telling a story one moment and then I'm doing something different the next moment.
Yeah.
So I've been sober ever since. And when I was in my sober living, the counselors called me in their office, and again I was facing jail time, so I was a little nervous. And I went in there and they said, "We want you to read this book." It was laid out the book, and it was on becoming a counselor.
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes, you have a way to confront people where they don't get defensive and get to the point." And I'm like, "Wow."
That's good.
And he said, "We'd like you to consider that when as part of your sobriety journey." And I'm like, "Sure, whatever. I'm just trying to get out of jail."
Yeah.
Just trying to get out.
Your willingness was really willing.
Yeah, I was willing with pressure. Felt the heat, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm 19 years old.
Yeah.
And then I go upstairs and talk to the guys that are in the program, and I said, "Man, these guys, they're really hard up for help. They want me to read a book and become a counselor." And I said, "Man, look at the kind of cars they drive. There's no way I'm gonna do that."
Oh,
Yeah.
You're young.
But I believe that God gives you, passion. It happens.
Yeah.
And so one thing led to another. I became a counselor. I loved it. And then I became a director, and I loved it. And I became a part owner of a place called the Right Step in Montrose. And slowly I built that up, and then for almost 20 years I ran it, and we had 20 locations and like 200 or 300 employees, and,
Wow.
and it was just a beautiful thing. And then in 2012 I wanted to take a break, so I sold it and had a non-compete. I was the landlord. We had 5 residential facilities that they were leasing from me, and then they ended up getting greedy and trying to bilk the insurance companies out of drug testing money, which was terrible.
Yeah.
And so I ended up slowly getting back the facilities and rebranded it as Positive Recovery.
Wow.
And the name Positive Recovery is such a powerful experience, because in my Right Step days, I'd have the employees read a book each year, and they would get money. I'd pay them to read the book and present a report to me. And the last couple years before I sold was a book called Delivering Happiness. Have you ever heard of it?
But now it's on my list.
Yeah, read it. It's a great book.
Okay.
It's a sad ending, but a great book. So Tony Heisch was the owner of Zappos, the shoe company.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and so he really was a culture. In fact, he would bring people in. You could go and fly and see their place and learn about their culture.
Yeah.
And so my doctor and I, we flew there, and it was in Vegas, and went, and it's basically just a big call center. But like each cubicle was decorated, and they had all these culture things, and they did all these things, including when you go through orientation, they would, at the end of it, they'd offer you $2,000 to quit. They wanted to see how serious you were.
Wow.
So they wrote this book, Delivering Happiness, and then he eventually sold to Amazon for $1 billion. And then his own addiction cost his life later in life, and sadly, because he had a lot of enablers around him. Money can change people.
Yeah, that's tough.
Definitely change people. So while we were doing all this experience, my doctor, Jason Powers, the medical director, said, "Hey, I want to go to this program, University of Penn, on positive psychology," which was written in the book. He had a section about positive psychology. And so Dr. Powers went to University of Penn and got a master's degree in positive psychology. And so when it was time to restart the business, I said, "Dr. Powers," I said, "I would like you to be my partner, and I like to use positive recovery as the name, and use positive psychology, your curriculum, as our curriculum to work the program."
That's awesome.
And so that was like in 2017, 2018. And so now we basically back to where we were in 2012 with the number of locations, the number of employees, the number of patients we're impacting. So we have facilities throughout Texas and treating several hundred. We probably got 250 people today in treatment.
Wow.
Either inpatient, detox, outpatient.
Yeah.
And so we're making a difference, and that really warms my heart, because when you turn, obviously selling a croissant is beautiful and people enjoy it, and enjoying
There's
your
purpose.
iced coffee.
You come together.
You come together, but in recovery, and it's life and death for many people. And we don't save everyone, but we save a lot of lives, and that's a ripple effect and changes the life cycle of many families. And stops the dysfunction.
Right. And this is like a very personal mission that it sounds like you believe God placed you for such a time as this, right? When you look back. So you said so many good things. But the biggest theme I'm hearing is just kind of sometimes our biggest rock bottom led to such a beautiful, one of the things on my mission is God can turn all things for those who love him according to his purpose for good, right?
Absolutely.
It's like a tagline I'll use often for this podcast.
Yes.
So my personal mission is to be able to give people an opportunity to share theirs, right? And like what God did and why he did it. And I don't know, I get emotional because I can relate to the recovery side of it. And I even have a heart for counseling as well. So it's like when you've been in the trenches, if your heart isn't for the others that are in the trenches still, I mean, I don't know. There's no better purpose.
Yes.
And it sounds like that you were encouraged at a young age.
Yes.
To be able, you do have a gift that you can meet people where they're at. You can be compassionate and understand, but you're also a walking, talking hope. Yeah. Right. So it's not even just let me correct you. It's like there's actually hope because you even said it. And when we're in that, we there is no hope. Like it's really dark.
Right.
And so for you to be able to use, it's like what the enemy meant for evil, God used for good. It is such a, I don't know what better fulfillment there is in life.
Right.
And when I talked about success, it's like this would be the definition. It's like what you're talking about, the heartfelt purpose of why we're doing what we're doing and what are we living for now.
Absolutely.
So I just love all. I think it's so beautiful. Do you want to share a little bit about how you balance? Because that's a big responsibility and a big heartfelt mission. How do you balance that with your other business and all the other things?
I think it's one of the things is when I was in training to be a counselor, they had this thing they called it the two-hat philosophy, which meant when you were working, you had one hat, and when you were in recovery outside of working, you had your recovery hat. Sometimes counselors bring only their recovery to counseling, and they burn out. And so I kind of use that philosophy in real life. It's like when I'm working, and when I'm personal, I'm personal, and like I play basketball in the league, I play pickleball, I do activities, and so in my 12-step meetings and things like that, I feel like the balance is what really creates the ability to have insight into people, employees, and their own issues.
I knew it would do that.
The balance in the people and their own issues, and helping everybody to improve their quality of life that you touch. You know what I mean? If you can, anybody you meet, or if it's a smile or whatever, if you can improve someone's quality of life just by doing any little thing that you can, it's worth it. And that's really to me, that's really what success is.
Yeah, I love that. And it also sounds like maybe even your two businesses or the involvement in both is it has become a lifestyle. So I think that's another cool thing is like when what you're doing it's not forced, it's kind of part of who you are and your lifestyle. It makes it so easy or easier. But yeah, I think that is very powerful.
Yeah, perfect.
So was there a fear that you had to overcome, and take a risk with, and how did you do that? Yeah,
I mean, just the fact of like when I was growing Common Bond, I mean, obviously I knew the love people had for it. You could see the passion. Like, you could walk in on a weekend and just feel the vibe and how excited people are to be be there. And so
like
when
customers or employees or
both.
That's cool.
It's just the vibe is so cool, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a nice place.
And so I knew I had to, if I was going to grow it, I had to make sure I kept some of that love in there and the quality of the food and things like that. So the fear was always that. And then once I got off track and opened these non-drive-through grab-and-goes, and they were sucking the company and sucking our time and sucking our resources, that I had a lot of fear. You know, I mean, I was driving it in the ditch, and it was because when you sign leases, it's, you know, a year process by the time you open and build it and get the equipment. And so decisions I were making a year previous were hurting us, you know, in the current. And it's not easy to turn the car around. It's like a ship.
Slow turn.
Yeah, the bigger the ship, the slower the turn, where you can't just say, oh, I'm going to turn this off. All right, I made a mistake. Let me get our money back and we'll start over.
Yeah.
You can't. And so I had a lot of fear. And so when it was time to find a partner to help me, because I was running in a ditch and I needed the help. And when they came in, the Garzas, when they came in, one of the things they did is that as I was adding location, we kept adding more and more employees in our commissary, in our bakehouse. And they came in and re-looked at the logistics, and not that we wanted to eliminate 30, 40 employees, but they did without losing the quality, because we had different teams doing bread, croissants, macarons, all these different things, where they said, no, let's have one super team that does each, that the team works together and moves from one product to the other, so we have less employees. So it took a lot of burden off the company
So you have to adapt.
Yeah, to adapt, to help it grow. So the fear is that I made a mistake, and then the accomplishment is that I was able to ask for help.
That you overcame the mistake, even, right?
Yes.
It's funny because like our biggest fear sometimes is like so limiting, but then you end up living through it.
Yes.
And you go, oh, I didn't die.
Yes,
Like that.
yes.
Actually, my biggest fear didn't actually kill me, and there's nowhere to go but up from here,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like it's learning.
Yeah, if we'd have lost the whole thing, if I'd have ran it all into the ditch and we had no common bond.
Yeah.
I mean, what it would said one about me, that I ran in the ditch, but that all the people that enjoy going there to get their iced coffee or get their treats is a part of a Houston tradition for 10 years. And so the fact that we were able to overcome that erratic driving I was doing.
Yeah. And sometimes the fear never happens, right? Like, so we're just like, it can go both ways, which I think is really powerful. And did you want to speak a little bit about your third business, well,
the third one was partly is tied kind of to the rehab center. And when I sold my business, we had created an electronic medical record.
Oh, okay.
And so when I was on my non-compete, we created a new one called Lightning Step. And actually the office is on Woodway.
Oh,
so
cool.
It's a different Woodway. But
Go
it's
to
on,
work when you're done.
Yeah, it's on Woodway, yeah, and not far from here. And I started it with another guy, and we built it, and then we've since sold 51% to private equity, and now they're in control, unfortunately. So I've learned from that experience. But
we're always learning.
Yeah, I'm down to 9% ownership of it, but it's made an impact in the drug and alcohol business because it's in over a couple hundred facilities.
Wow.
And it's software that allows counselors to work more rapidly, technology-wise, to do their paperwork so that they can spend more time with their clients.
Oh, okay. Efficient.
So that makes me happy that they're getting to help their clients more instead of just getting bogged down with bureaucracy.
Yeah. No, I think that's beautiful. So I guess, in closing, what would be, because I know we kind of offered advice for the younger entrepreneur, but what would be maybe something you've grounded yourself in, like a mantra, a quote, maybe something God spoke to you? Has there been anything that even when you're in fear or there's a difficult, something that you go back to? Is there anything like that that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think it's just my mission statement, to make the world a better place.
The purpose in what you're doing?
Yeah, if you have purpose, and they talk about that with the people that live in past 100, social, purpose, health.
Yeah.
Those things are really critical to me. So like after this, I'm going to work out with my trainer.
Yeah. So it's lifestyle.
Yeah, lifestyle. And then I'll be at a meeting at noon. And then I have two friends coming in from Utah and that are leading this thing we started called a Sober Supper Club.
Oh, fun.
So tonight we'll have 32 men at Brennan's restaurant. And one guy from Utah is going to lead.
Wow.
I've known for 20 plus years, and then we all get to share on that topic.
That was beautiful.
As we have a beautiful meal. So what a great, and my son's playing soccer at 4:15, so it couldn't have been
it's
a better.
It's like a full day. It just shows you have a full life.
Yeah.
And like that is so fulfilling.
Yeah.
Right? It's beautiful. And you said social, and what comes to my mind is community.
Yeah.
And it's like, giving, passing on what was so freely given to us comes to mind. There's scripture on that.
Yes, yep.
But then it's also just a giving back, right? Like you're able to give back, and there's a full circle. I believe like we're poured into to overflow and pour out, and it's
Yes.
just this cycle and
Yes.
circle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
community is important. Support, you hit on. Having purpose and
Yes.
fulfillment in what
Yes.
we're
Yeah.
doing, because it is hard,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
everyone would be doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do have last question.
Okay.
Did you never, because your fear was more of making a mistake or failing, but did you ever look at Starbucks and think, as a competitor kind of situation, that you didn't have a chance? Or did that with Common Bond, did that ever come up?
No, I'm never afraid of competition.
How did you look at that
I think you just got to kind of outwork it. You know what I mean? It's like whatever your competition is, people look for you, how you do things. That's a compliment, right? So it's a compliment. I was looking at Starbucks. I read Howard Schultz's books on my bedstand, and I read his book because his story is interesting, because he started actually on his own and got turned down, and actually went back to Starbucks to buy it because they didn't want to do what he wanted them to do, and that's how he ended up buying it. So even though they've grown to what they are, it was an entrepreneurial story to start. And so I think that it's just a mission to find what's good in different things and how to make your opportunity better, your mousetrap even better.
That's good. And you also said kind of what I think what I've grounded in even in this journey, because there's tons of podcast studios, there's tons of coffee shops, and it's like, but we come for you specifically. You're unique.
Yeah.
You make the business unique. The mission makes the business unique. And so why we're doing it is also different.
Yes.
So, okay, I just think that's beautiful. I was just curious how, because, to be honest, if I was going to start a coffee shop, I'd be like, Starbucks already has the market.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't even want to try. So I'm like, kudos to you, and keep going, because I'm so against Starbucks now, and so for Common Bond now. Like I was always, but now it's like more so. So
thank you,
George Joseph. It has been an honor, personal honor, and I hope we blessed everyone else watching as well. But ultimately, I also hope you were super encouraged by today as well.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Pleasure.